Hey guys, welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Frank Dux edition. So, this is in relation to the Frank Dux versus Michael Bisping videos, and am I drinking the Dux Kool-Aid? Anyway, a lot of comments. Enough for a whole video to center around that for Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, addressing these comments. Anyway, let's start off. This is a good one. Jesse James Tucker. I don't know about these stories of his past. I wasn't there. Who knows? I can, however, testify to Frank Dux' martial arts teaching, though. He is a legit martial arts genius. Take it from someone who has had a falling out with Dux Rue. I have absolutely nothing to gain whatsoever by speaking any validity about Frank Dux. In a world full of skeptics, I recognize I am putting my reputation at risk by speaking highly of his teachings. I must reiterate, most stories of his past and the claims that strongly appear questionable I cannot speak of. I can, however, honestly say his martial arts teachings are top-notch, absolutely legit. I have had my personal conflicts with Dux and we have gone our separate ways. I am forever grateful for his combat science applications and above all the martial arts drama and above all the interesting claims that cause so much controversy. Frank Dux is a genuine good man with a kind heart. By the way, Jesse James Tucker is a badass. If you guys want to learn Krav Maga and you're in the Arizona area, check out his Krav studio. And yeah, I mean, he pretty much laid it out, his experience. I mean, he knows about the controversy. He doesn't really care about Frank Dux' past or claims. He was more interested in what does this man have to offer, like, today, as far as, like, a martial artist, and he was quite pleasantly surprised. But anyway, I'm going to head to the Batmobile and answer the rest of these because it's such a nice day outside. I'll make sure to stay until the end, by the way, because I will respond to one of Sheldon Lettich's comments where he's basically insinuating or saying that I'm like Frank Dux' spokesperson, which is absolutely ridiculous, man. But that's one reason why I got to make this video to like clarify a few things. Jeez. There's enough comments, good, bad, and ugly, to make a whole episode out of this. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to address several things. This is in relation to the whole Frank Dux versus Michael Bisping debate. Also, am I drinking the Frank Dux Kool-Aid and all that stuff? And people will say, oh, no, you're not drinking it. You're mainlining it or you're chugging it. Well, I will say this. I'm not drinking the Dux Kool-Aid. I've taken sips out of curiosity, and I recommend you guys do too. It's nice to take a sip just to kind of see what it's all about. There's one thing I'm drinking, though. It's dragon's blood. That's what's fit for a Viking Samurai, and I'm not making that up. You guys need to search that on YouTube because I made a video about that. It's like the most amazing drink ever. You can't like buy it in the store. You got to make it, but if you're into working out or just general health, it'll give you the most mind-blowing pumps in the gym, and it's super healthy. But you got to search that, and you got to find that video on my channel because if you're into working out, it is worth it. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking. Not the Dux-Aid, but dragon's blood. That is my drink of choice. All right, let's go over some of these comments here. This is from RMSG. I have a really good buddy who studied with Dux, and he has always maintained that he was an impressive instructor. I train with my buddy in martial arts and other training for almost 20 years, so if he says Dux is legit, I tend to believe him. And I've heard that about guys who train with Dux, and, you know, if given the opportunity, you know, and I'm in Vegas, I want to train with Dux, and he had said I can, and I would chronicle on that channel, and I'll give a fair assessment. Look, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I truly do believe Dux has a lot of knowledge to share to a martial artist, and I've been training for decades. So I have a pretty good idea if somebody is showing something that is useful or just like complete bunk. And I have an open mind, which I'll talk about more later. But anyway, that's kind of cool to hear this guy say that. Here's another one. Edward Stanilevich. Love him or hate him, you have to admit Dux is extremely entertaining. Dux is extremely entertaining. I mean, you think the mind behind Bloodsport is not an entertaining guy, guys? Like, of course it is. And, you know, it's kind of sad. Dux, Van Damme, and Sheldon Lettich had a falling out because I don't think it's a coincidence that the best films like Bloodsport and Double Impact and Lionheart, they were all associated with. Imagine what, like, look what we missed out on, man. Anyway, that's sad to think about. All right, another comment from Nostradamus. Frank Dux, even in his wildest dreams, can't beat Mr. Bisping. It's really hard to say, man. It's really hard to say. The funny thing is, Kung Fu Genius went out. He put out an episode saying that I said that I think Frank could beat Michael Bisping. Now, I made a video. Frank Dux would destroy ex-UFC champion ... or at the very least his arguments when Bisping called Dux a fraud. And if you watch that video, actually watch the video if you want, but a better one is when I actually had Frank Dux on defending himself, and he does destroy Michael Bisping's argument. So what I made in the previous video before that is actually true.
Fastest animal on earth. He can move his legs pretty fast, but Frank Dux can move his legs faster than a cheetah's legs.
Well, first of all, if I have a 72-mile-per-hour kick, I hope he doesn't think I can run 72 miles per hour.
Now, can Frank Dux beat Michael Bisping? Of course he could. There's a possibility, you know, and that's not being like ridiculous. I mean, who thought one of the Paul brothers would beat Tyron Woodley twice, and the second time knocking him out? Like, I would have bet for Tyron Woodley, man, and Tyron Woodley's way more dominant than Michael Bisping's ever been. You versus Bisping, what happens?
I destroy him.
Like, do you think the fight would even last 1 minute?
No.
Not even close. In fact, you probably break a new USA record. I'm not gullible like some people would say in the comment section, man. You want to talk about someone who's gullible? Look at Joe Rogan. He's like 10 times more gullible than me, and I'll tell you why. He literally thought those dumbbells Chris Cuomo was picking up like this, those 100-pound dumbbells, were real.
Chris Cuomo is, look, I'm Italian, I could say this. He's a guinea.
Right.
And a lot of those guineas are stupid strong. They're monkey strong.
I bet he is.
That's real. That's a real weight.
He literally thought Steven Seagal was fighting on the front lines in the Ukraine-Russia conflict because a fake CNN article said he was.
Oh, my God.
So Joe Rogan is the gullible one, not me. Not me. But speaking about Joe Rogan, now that is the show, that is the podcast that Frank Dux needs to get on. That would be amazing. And I would only hope that Joe Rogan would keep an open mind, which I think he would. I think he would keep an open mind, he would be fair, and he would listen, just like I did. Guys, just because I had Frank Dux on doesn't mean I believe everything he said. And that's not a shot against Frank Dux. Look, I don't believe everything anybody tells me, outside of maybe my wife and my brother. But outside of that, you always got to remain like a level of skepticism. Now, there are certain comments, oh, you're throwing him the softball questions and you're not questioning him. Look, even if I question him about certain things, he's obviously going to have a good response. And if you want to talk about like me questioning people, take for instance like the interview that I did with Michael Jai White. He was on DJ Vlad's show, and DJ Vlad said, hey, would you ever, fight Mike Tyson? Would you box Mike Tyson? He said, of course I would. And then I asked him about that when I interviewed him. I never said that, you know?
I said I would spar with Mike Tyson anytime. I would
more of an exhibition.
No.
If you got a call to do the next exhibition match with Tyson, would you do it?
Of course.
So it's like, even if you confront someone or ask them something, they could just deny it, you know? And then what are you going to do? It's like, I'm not going to get in a fight with them. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. I'm not going to go back and forth, man. I'm not trying to make like an uncomfortable, confrontational interview with somebody, man. It's just like, who the fuck would come on the channel at that point? It's like, I don't want to go on that dude's channel. He's going to fight with me the whole time, you know? So I got to respect the answers they give. Ultimately, someone's going to make themselves look good or bad based on the answers they give. And as far as like when I interview people and I have them on the channel, I want them to look good. Ultimately, it's not up to me though, but I will try to make sense of it. So going back to that Michael Jai White interview, you know, I don't know how they edited the DJ Vlad. I mean, yes, he blatantly said I would, of course I would box Mike Tyson when he was asked that. So, but I try to make sense of it because you want to talk about like, oh, you're doing these, certain videos just to get views. Trust me, I could get a lot more views if I just talked so much shit about people, if I just talked so much shit about Frank Dux or so much shit about Steven Skull. Like, that's not the kind of guy I am. And for one, I respect those guys despite what you might think about them. And as far as the Michael Jai White goes, I could have got a lot more views on that video, use a certain title that I know people would click on and all this other stuff. But instead, out of respect and trying to make sense and giving him the benefit of the doubt with the answer he gave me, I had to like put in a little segment of sharing my thoughts of what I think he might have meant on the DJ Vlad show, you know, because again, I don't want any of my guests who are on to look bad, but it's not really up to me. Ultimately, it's going to be up to them. So anyway, check out the Michael Jai White interview and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And I made the best sense of it I could, and I've been very fair, and I try to do that with all my interviews, you know. So let's go to the next comment. All right, Koning Toto. I'm done with this channel. Used to be a good channel. Now not so much anymore. I don't think a lot of you guys appreciate what I'm trying to do here, man. You don't understand how much work, how hard it was to get Frank Dux on the channel. Look, months ago, almost a year ago, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 months ago, maybe a year ago, Frank Dux was on a podcast and said, oh, that Viking Samurai guy, he lacks ethics. He's inviting all these other guys to trash talk me, and then he doesn't let me on there. It's like, you know what? He's got a point in a way. Let me really reach out to him, because I think we've been exposed to a lot of negative Frank Dux things. Let's actually hear it straight from him. And let me be the channel that lacks ethics and invite him over. And I did. And it probably took, I don't know, 6 or whatever months to get him on. And I'm happy I got him on for a couple of reasons. For one, I kind of like a challenge. Like, the fact that people were telling me I couldn't get him, even people in his own camp, and I know people in his own camp were telling him, don't go on Viking Samurai channel, he's going to make you look bad, you know? Challenge accepted, and I'm glad I did get him on, because, look, at the end of the day, I'm happy I met him. He's a nice guy. People who've been associated with him, who may have had fallen outs, will say the same thing. I like Frank. He's a nice guy. It's really hard not to like the dude, right? And as far as, like, his stories, if people ask me, and this is not based on because I want to believe him, you know, this is just based on me talking to him, me talking to a lot of people who are against him, a lot of people who support him, everybody in between, people who were with him since the 80s, people who were with him more recently. I will just say things are not so black and white, and it's kind of sad that, you know, they treat Frank like that. You got a couple diehards, mostly in Mexico, who believe everything about him, and then you have other anti-Duxers who don't believe anything. And I think that's unfair, because I actually do believe he's got a lot of martial arts knowledge, and unfortunately, because people are closed-minded towards him, you know, he doesn't really have an opportunity to share it so much. And I think the martial arts community in general is missing out. So it's kind of sad, but my whole thing is, like, if somebody asks me, my stance right now is, I will tell them, and this is just being completely honest, I definitely think there's more truth to him than most people realize. Ultimately, it's not up to me and my channel to make you believe. My channel is simply there to, and I do my best to give you both sides and have the information out there. And I'm not saying I'm giving it all. I'm saying I'm giving something you can reference, and then maybe you could get other sources of stuff if you really want to figure this thing out, because it is kind of an interesting thing. And I've always been more of that guy that likes to question things and likes to look further into things. And maybe I spent too much time and energy on the whole thing. But the sad thing is that people will literally unsubscribe from the channel. It's like, look, if you want to unsubscribe, because they have this, like, perception now that, oh, you're just like a Dux guy, and you're just promoting him. Like, how am I promoting the guy? Like, I'm not out there telling you to buy his book, which you'd be lucky to get a copy, because that thing's out of print. That thing's not easy to find, the Secret Man book. I'm not telling you to, like, you know, pay for his instructional courses or join his school, though I think there would be value in that, but I'm not telling you guys to do that. So I don't see how people say, like, I'm promoting him. I'm simply being more than fair and giving him, you know, a platform on the channel that, lucky enough, has enough subscribers and traction and viewers. And granted, I want it to get bigger, but it's definitely bigger than some of the other channels he's been on, right? And a lot of people watch the channel. A lot of people in the martial arts community watch the channel, and I'm proud of that, you know, despite what they might think about me having Frank Dux on. And it's kind of funny. It's almost like if you're associated with him in some way, just because you're being fair, they want to, like, you know, oh, they want to, like, look down on you and shun you. It's like, whatever, that's on them, man. I'm just trying to be fair, and I'm happy that I've had people you know, like Don Wilson, who are against Frank Dux and Alan Goldberg and Frank Dux himself. Like, I'm trying to give all that to you guys. Ultimately, you guys, you know, you can re-examine some of the evidence. I think it is good to hear it straight from Frank. It is plausible that this stuff could have happened. But it's not my job to basically tell you if it has or hasn't, because I don't know. I don't know. I talked to the guy, right? And I talked to a lot of people. And let's make another point. You tell me, like, a martial artist or a grandmaster who has not exaggerated, who has not embellished, who has not probably just made up shit. Tell me one that you know, if you're in the martial arts world. Like, maybe there's a few, but trust me, there are so many that, even my own karate instructor, for example, and he was a badass, and I don't doubt these stories. But, you know, did he beat the shit out of 5 guys outside of a bar without getting hit? Maybe. Or maybe he beat the crap out of 3 of them and took a couple shots. Either way, he's a badass. So I don't really give a shit if he even embellished his story, man, to try to, you know, make me more interested and impress me. Like, whatever, man. The thing is, when you're talking about martial arts, when you're talking about guys specifically, ego comes into play. As a guy, everybody wants to be tough. Everybody wants to be a badass. I mean, hell, even before I took martial arts in school, you know, like, yeah, people would look up to, oh, the kid who's good at basketball or football or whatever, you know. But to me, it was always like, and to a lot of people, it was like, you know what, that's cool. Those sports are cool. But in the real world, really what matters, I think, is if you could kick ass, right? And that's why we all gravitated to these movies and we took martial arts. It's not because we want to beat people up, but honestly, that has real world applications. Like, if you're on the street and somebody's messing with you, who the fuck cares if you can play basketball, man? Like, this stuff could, like, really save your ass, you know? And a lot of that, when you're, like, younger and you're coming up in the martial arts world and you're getting your skills, ego's involved, man. You're 20 years old, you're full of testosterone. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I even want to test my skills, you know? I'm not saying anybody should want to, but, like, I wasn't above that. Like, there was even a time at Denny's where, like, we'll just say I ended up in the parking lot with another guy. He ripped his shirt off, like, in the middle of the restaurant, and we exchanged words, you know, because he actually threw something that landed in my plate of food. And I'll tell you, if there's one thing you don't mess with, it's a guy's food, a guy's money, or a guy's woman. Those are the 3 things, man. So I'm not just going to sit there and just like, look, man, oh, okay, I can't eat my meal. Like, I didn't start fucking lifting weights and doing martial arts just so I could, like, have somebody throw some shit in my meal and be disrespectful about it, you know? So, again, we ended up in the parking lot. There's a long story behind that, you know? And my brother and one of my really good friends was there, and they can actually vouch for that. So that's a true story. Now, I could embellish the hell out of it and say, oh, you know, I beat the shit out of that guy and, like, 6 of his friends, you know? Like, but whatever. I'm not the kind of guy that's just going to make shit up. Somebody else wants to. I don't really care, man. Which leads into the next comment. Randy Shane. It's crazy people waste so much time and emotion hating on this dude. Whether he's true or lying, who cares? Bloodsport was a great film we all have enjoyed. He deserves credit for his participation in its creation. I'm sure there are true elements and embellishments, as is a case of any movie based on a true story. The movie came out 30 years ago. I honestly feel no different about the film, whether it's all bullshit or 100% true. And that's a good point. Like, let's look. At the end of the day, Frank Dux is associated with Bloodsport. I mean, hell, the character's name is Frank Dux. Van Damme portrayed Frank Dux. Van Damme's career, in a lot of ways, exploded. It was launched because of Bloodsport. People from my generation, and even other generations, consider Bloodsport the greatest martial arts film of all time. So, it's just so funny that Frank Dux just happens to be not only associated. I mean, come on, we gotta give the guy credit. He did the damn fight choreography. I mean, it was... and that's why we can't stop talking about Frank Dux. Look, man, I wasn't planning to do another interview with Frank Dux. Michael Bisping came out with the video talking about the top martial arts frauds, right? He ended up listing Frank Dux as number 1. That video got a lot more views than the average Michael Bisping video. There is an interest to this stuff. And look, when you're making YouTube videos, you kind of have to make videos, at least some of them, on topics that are of interest. I got lucky enough, and it was a lot of work, so I don't even know if I'd call it luck, but I got to meet Frank Dux. So I have a connection where I can say, hey, Frank, Michael Bisping made this video. How about we address it? Like, honestly, dude, give me a little fucking credit. Who else on YouTube can do that? And like another comment somebody said, it's not like Frank Dux gives a million interviews. This is like, I have an opportunity to address this. And that's why YouTube is awesome. So give me a little goddamn credit, man.
All right, I'm a little tired, I'm a little wired, and I think I deserve a little appreciation.
Okay, next comment. This is good. This is from Don Wilson. And people question if this is really him. This is his account, and it's Donald Wilson, by the way, if you ever see his comments. And I will say, man, they are some of the most entertaining comments. And I love when I see his comments. I don't think Frank Dux would like his comments, and I don't think people who support Dux would like his comments. I like Frank Dux, but I could appreciate Don's comments here because I know where he stands on the whole issue. But anyway, Donald Wilson says, this is in relation to the Philip Catteray fight footage, right? He says, Frank's memory of his fights is so accurate that he claimed to have recreated techniques actually used in the Kumite when he worked as a choreographer advisor on Bloodsport. Yet, he can watch a video of someone fighting and he cannot tell if it was him. Ridiculous. Every fighter can recognize whether or not a competitor is him during a video of the competition. So, the argument you could make is it's not the best quality footage. I think the Philip Catteray footage is interesting in general, and it's hard to say what's true, man, because, again, you hear so many different stories, and all I'm trying to do, for the most part, is expose you to the different sides, right? And I'm sure the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So, you know, at one point, I guess somebody gave Frank Dux that footage, and either he or someone else posted it online claiming it was Frank Dux. Finally, the lost Kumite footage found. And then, I think Philip Catteray's dead, by the way, but then somebody said, well, his son said, that's not Frank Dux, that's my father, and I demand you take it down. I mean, the footage is still up there, so I don't know how much truth to that story. Like, if you guys know Philip Catteray's son, I would put him on the channel. I would ask him about it, and we try to prove if it was actually his father. Maybe he's got a lot of other footage or pictures or a way to prove it in some way. So, you know, like when people say, again, like, and I see this in forums and different comments, you know, oh, you're just so pro Dukes and you're so gullible and you're blinded and you're biased. It's like, no, I'm not. Look what I just said. If we get Philip Catteray's son, somebody knows him, I will explore that, man, because I'm not biased, you know? And Frank Dux even said, maybe that's me, maybe that's not, you know, like Don pointed out.
Is it me? I can't honestly tell you because, again, I'm not the one who took the footage. And I quite frankly, I fought so many damn matches all over the place. It's a blur to me in many cases.
You know, it's interesting. It's almost like, you know, the footage of Bigfoot or something.
Right.
Like, it might be Bigfoot, it might not. So you don't even know if that's you, but it could be. But nobody could really say it's not. But there is evidence to say, at the minimum, it's probably not even Philip Catteray. If it's not you, it might not even be Philip Catteray either.
That's true too.
Some other dude, or it might be you.
That's true too. What we do know is that it was filmed at the time I was fighting.
Here's a good one, and I destroy this guy's point very easily. But anyway, he says, novice music enthusiast. I am the best basketball player who ever lived because I took part in a secret tournament that no one knew was happening, and I won it undefeated. It doesn't matter if there was no footage of it, or if MJ, Kareem, Curry, Wilt, LeBron, or Kobe ever heard about it. I am the best. I had games where I shot 100%, had 80 rebounds, 600 assists, 1,200 points. I promise I wasn't playing against first graders. I promise they were the best basketball players even though you never heard of them. I promise they were the best basketball players despite not playing in the best nor training with the best. Now disprove me. Well, I said, if you were that great, they would have made a movie about you. All right, here's another comment. Rusty Shackleford. I'd say it depends on how you define fraud. Has he told stories that are simply not true? Absolutely. Is he a skilled martial artist in his own right? Absolutely. In some ways he's a fraud, and in others he's not. That said, he's never proven himself to be an effective real-world fighter. So, you know, there's interesting if you think about it, like, the truth about Frank Dux. First, you got to define, like, what truth you're even talking about, because I think there's, like, 4 truths. There's objective truth, there's subjective truth, there's normative truth, and there's complex truth. And I'm gonna actually cover that. It's gonna be kind of more of a philosophical video in a way, and it's gonna be interesting. But again, the whole Frank Dux thing is pretty complex. It's not black or white. It's very gray. There's very, very many shades to this thing, man. And I think when people like Michael Bisping just say he's a fraud and he points towards evidence that has been out there, and you know, it's like, look, I can point to an article written 10 years ago that says Frank Dux is a fraud and just go with that as my source. But is that fair without looking further into it? Like, who wrote the article? Why did they write it? Obviously, most people have a bias towards something. And then what kind of evidence did they really gather, right? Because you can't just go with what's out there. I think we all need to question things in general. And I think if you're objective and fair, that you'll see there's a lot more to Frank Dux than a lot of people realize. Oh, here's an interesting exchange. This is from iPolter. He said, "It's hilarious how you originally thought he was full of shit and he called you out for it, but now he's on your channel. Seems like you're a fanboy and enjoying his company." Then he said, "It's just funny watching your old clips calling him a fraud, etc. Now you're chatting with him on a daily basis. You've changed your attitude towards him." I said, "I don't chat with him on a daily basis, and I never called him a fraud myself. I went along with the narrative and thought his book was fiction, though. But regardless, people can change their mind about things. There are few things that should ever be written in stone. I get along great with people who are very much anti-Dukes as well." And then he said, "Fair enough, mate. Respect this." And that's where I'm coming from, man. So, look, whether you think Frank Dux is a fraud today or 10 years ago, does that mean you have to 5 years from now or 10 years from now? If you were presented with other evidence, or, you know, you actually listened to him and made up your mind based on like what he's actually saying, not what some article somebody wrote 10 years ago is saying. Oh, and here's what this guy says. Jesus, my savior. Everyone deserves a chance at defending themselves when having your character and your very being slandered. Just saying. Yes, I 100% agree. In fact, you know, funny enough, I even asked Ashita Kim if he wanted to be on the channel because he had commented on a video. And look, do I believe Ashita Kim? No, I actually don't. And that's my stance. And I don't really care what he or anybody else thinks, but it would be interesting to hear his side. Maybe he changed minds. I don't know, man. Like, some other frauds that Bisping had on his martial arts fraud episode with Dukes as #1. Like, Ashita Kim was on there. The no-touch martial artist guy, George Dillman, was on there, right? And George Dillman has an interesting background, but then it's like, because of the no-touch thing that he did on, I don't know, some TV show, and he couldn't perform it.
Oh, I don't care, George, really. It's all right.
Then everything associated with him is just like, oh, this guy's just a complete fraud and nonsense. Whereas, like, that's kind of unfair. So here's the thing. Do I believe in no-touch martial arts? I'd say in general, no. Do I think there could be something there? Maybe something even George Dillman tapped into but couldn't replicate.
I think it moved. Oh my God, I think it moved.
Maybe something that somebody else had tapped into, or maybe something somebody will tap into 100 years from now.
You know, I'm a little hungry. You wouldn't happen to have any of that mango left?
That's where I remain open-minded. And no, just for the record, my mind is not so open. My brain has fallen out. Brain is very comfortable in this mind. But I'll tell you the important thing about open-minded people and why you shouldn't give them so much shit. Because if we were all closed-minded, that's it. The world is what it is, and that's it. And right now, honestly, the world is not that great. Like, it's not bad, but it could get better. It could be better. And the way you advance society and civilization in general is by having open-minded people question things. And, you know, when people are saying, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, that can't be done, that's impossible. It's those open-minded people that are saying, well, I'm not going along with that. Let me analyze some stuff. Let me think about how something could be possible. And this is why we have the civilization we do now, where, hell, we're probably going to be in Mars in like 10 years or something. Because open-minded people, if we were all closed-minded, I mean, probably wouldn't even have running water or electricity, right? So if you want to be that kind of guy, fine. That's on you, man. But you should be thankful for people who are open-minded. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to ever do anything to change the world, but it takes this kind of mindset to question things. All right, so this guy, Mike SCH76. Dude is a straight-up BS artist, and your channel is heading in that same direction. See, he doesn't get it, man. He doesn't get what I'm ultimately trying to do. And maybe partly it's my fault. Maybe I haven't articulated it well enough. But that's why I'm making this video, to provide more clarity so you guys understand what I'm trying to do here. And all I can do is try, and I can try my best. I might fail. In that guy's eyes, I have, okay? Whatever, it is what it is. I'm just trying to do my best. Okay, here's an interesting one. This is from AHCHOUNG, Ah Chung. He said, it wasn't an amazing defense. So I thought Dukes put up an amazing defense against Bisping's argument. And I replied, how so? So he replied, he wouldn't give answers. His non-answer to CIA was funny, indirectly working with the CIA. Someone from McDonald's could take and hand an order to someone from CIA and claim the same thing. Also, for a guy claiming the kitchen sink of his heroics, he says a lot without citing his sources. My brother and I, both former military, were listening to your video with Frank Dux, getting pissed and laughing at the same time because Frank is talking like a guy who would walk in a Subway restaurant wearing the wrong military uniform with all the medals from every branch just to get a discount for a sandwich. And in this example, the Viking Samurai would be the guy standing behind him, patting him on the shoulder, giving him an emotional boner by saying, thank you for your service, not knowing he's disrespecting other vets by cosplaying. Don't get me wrong, I love this channel. Well, thank you. But I predict that you are about 4 interviews away from getting tired of Frank Dux' shit and realizing how you fed into his BS and calling up Sheldon Lettich to tell him he was right about everything. So I replied, look, the first point about the CIA and Medal of Honor he addressed is always going to be controversial. And I thought Frank did a good job explaining it, but anyway, I further said, and of course, no sane person would respect someone who steals valor. Of course not. Hell, I grew up an army brat and seen firsthand what kind of sacrifices people in the military make. I even take my dad to the VI hospital myself because he's not even in the condition to go by himself these days, which I'm not going to get into. As far as other points go, the less controversial ones, I think Dux did put up an amazing defense overall. Speaking of Sheldon Lettich, by the way, he did comment, not in my video, but in the Kung Fu Geniuses, where he did a video talking about the whole Dux Bisping thing. Anyway, check it out, it's pretty funny. But Sheldon Lettich in there said, I've known Frank Dux since the early 1980s. Back then, he always presented that photo of himself with the medals as legitimate, and he claimed to me and many others that he was a Medal of Honor recipient. He even showed me the medal. When I visited the home of his former in-laws, when he was married to his first wife, April, they had that photo hanging in a prominent place on the wall of their living room, showing off their war hero son-in-law. I actually talked about this in one of my interviews with Viking Samurai. Now that Viking seems to have become Frank's spokesperson, I'm guessing he may have taken that interview down or done some editing. Well, you know what, Sheldon? That interview, that video is on the channel. All of the anti-Dux content is on the channel. All of the pro-Dux content is on the channel. And I think it is important to have a record and not scrub it. And people can see like the evolution if they want to look back at videos of stuff that I had related to Frank Dux and the videos now and maybe the videos in the future. So, I'm not his spokesperson, by the way, man. I am just a fair guy that wants to try to find out the truth myself. And of course, I am using other things that people say, both good and bad, including stuff you said, to try to come to my own conclusion. But at the end of the day, look, again, the stolen valor thing, no one's going to respect that. Nobody likes that. And it's sad that somebody would have to do that, right? And like I said, my dad's, he's a disabled veteran, dude. Like, I take him to the VA hospital. I know how effed up he is. I know how effed up other people are. And yeah, they do make big sacrifices. I know, growing up, my dad would be gone a year at a time, okay? Like, I went to 4 different high schools in 3 states just moving around. Like, I'm very familiar with that world, and I respect that world. And yeah, I would tell somebody, thank you for your service. And if somebody's going around in a uniform or whatever, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And hopefully they're not some piece of shit, parading as like a cosplayer, as that other fucking dude said. But anyway, as far as like Frank Dux and the martial arts and all that kind of stuff, like I mentioned before, if he embellished stories, like I don't really care. Like, part of it, look, I wish everybody would just tell the truth about everything, right? But even if you look at the movie Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, I mean, they are embellishing the hell out of a lot of stuff. And look, don't get me wrong, I love Bruce Lee, but a lot of the stuff in that movie is not even true, right? And at the end of the day, if somebody feels the need to make their life more interesting because they have to, you know, exaggerate certain details, I don't really give a shit, man. But just for the record, I am not Frank Dux' spokesperson. I like Frank Dux. I think he's a nice guy. I think there's more truth to him than a lot of people realize, and especially what the internet gives him. I also think Sheldon Lettich is an amazing writer-director, which I've always said, and I love his movies. And I don't know what else to tell you guys, man. I still like Alan Goldberg a lot. I know he is probably the biggest critic of Frank Dux. I respect Don Wilson and all of his easily provable accomplishments. Don Wilson is awesome. The whole point of the matter is I like people that like Dux, including Dux. I like people that don't like Dux, including Goldberg and Don and other people, man. Like, let me just be the neutral guy and not have to take sides, because I want to be more the diplomat, and I'm trying to, you know, I'd rather bridge and bring the martial arts community and even these different factions together instead of the guy just taking a side and saying, F the other side, man. And, you know, that's where I'm at.